So you just came back from 3 gigs in about 8 days, 7-8 days. Is that right?
Yeah, about 10 days or so. Yeah.
3 gigs.
Thursday, Friday for the week prior, and then this past Saturday.
All 3 different locations.
All 3 different places.
And where were they?
Youngstown, Ohio, Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Kenton, Ohio.
Okay. A little bit of driving and traveling in there, huh?
A little bit, yeah. Gets cramped in the back of that truck.
Now, how many indoor and how many outdoor?
They were all outdoor.
Oh, my. See, that's the thing I wanted to get into with you, because you would have, based upon what you do, you would have unique challenges to outdoor shows that a lot of bands will not.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in the middle of the summer, man. So, again, how, and you've been doing it for so many years, how does that work exactly? I mean, what is there anything different you do for an outdoor gig, whether it's a presentation or anything, as opposed to indoor? Yeah,
some of the props that we use on stage, we have to be very careful, because if it gets windy, and we've always joked over the years that it wouldn't be a Mr. Speed show outside if there wasn't wind. We always have wind, no matter what time of year it is. It just seems like we're playing on off the coast of Florida.
Okay.
You know, the wind is so strong, and we put some of these 8-foot by 8-foot scrims up there that have the cats on them, and those things will act like a sail on a ship, and they'll just take off. We can't afford to have that happen. And then even our dummy amplifiers that are just empty boxes, wooden boxes, they'll fall over. You know, because the wind will just, if the wind comes the wrong way,
in the back.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're all hollowed out. So they'll knock them right down to the ground. You'd think we'd be smart enough to harness them somehow. No, we're not.
Anchor them down.
No.
Couple concrete blocks on the inside.
See, because
if
I did that, I wouldn't have anything to talk about now.
You got plenty to talk about, pal. You got plenty to talk about. Hey, this is a treat for me, because I think we've known each other for, it has to be 7, 8, 9 years now.
Easy. Yeah.
And of course, you portray, and you'd also play live, obviously, but you portray my favorite member of the band. It was a natural thing, and I started working with Paul, and that's kind of when I think we crossed paths initially. I think at one of the expos. I think it was.
I bought 3 guitars off you.
Yeah, and definitely a long time customer for the guitar years, but. I don't like to have a standard interview, but with you, it's so important to go back and talk about how this just happened, because I know it happened so organically, and I got a little bit of information, but I think it's important for the listener to get a real good understanding on your background and how the entire band started from the very beginning.
Sure.
So, I'm going to guess, like me and millions of other, a million or 2 other people probably. The Kiss thing was grade school for you. Am I right?
Of course. Yeah.
And how did that start?
That started simply by seeing the commercial for the Kiss radio on TV one Saturday afternoon when I was a kid. And I saw that and thought, wow, there's a lot going on there. What's happening?
There's a lot going on there.
And it was
the AM radio, or was an FM in there too? I can't remember.
I think it was just all AM.
A little transistor.
1977, 78, I think it was all AM at that point. Shortly after that, on my street, a family moved onto the block, and they had a young boy from the Philippines who was in the family, and he was adopted. And he had gone to see Kiss. So we became friends, and I went over to his house one day, and in his bedroom he had a Kiss poster on his closet door. And I thought, well, I just saw that commercial. Now here's this poster. So I asked him, I said, do you know anything about that band? And he said, yeah, I just saw them in January at the Civic Arena. And that was the January 13th, 1978 show, the Kiss Alive 2 tour he saw. Right. I was actually playing grade school basketball that night, so there was no chance I was going, because I thought I was going to be in the NBA. And so he told me that his uncle was best friends with their special effects director.
Yeah.
And he had all these souvenirs from the show. And so that's how that was my indoctrination into Kiss, by meeting my friend Chris at a young age. And at that point, Kiss was becoming huge. So my timing couldn't have been better. So you see the commercial, you see the poster, you meet, this friend, and it was just full on from that point. I haven't stopped.
No question. And were you already into rock music at that time? Just you hadn't experienced that band, or did seeing that poster and finding out who Kiss was put you into rock music?
Peter Frampton put me into rock music. My older brother Jerry was dabbling in guitar, and he was listening to a lot of classic rock and progressive rock and things like that. So that was all coming out of his bedroom, and I was hearing it.
Okay.
So I was like a sponge to that. I didn't really go down the prog rock road, but the Frampton really spoke to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got the Frampton Comes Alive for my birthday in like 77, I think it was, year after it came out, I was hooked.
Okay.
And then seeing Kiss just took it to the next level. Actually, the very first musician that I ever remember listening to on a regular basis was Cat Stevens.
Okay.
His Catch Bullet 4 album was one I had as a kid, and then it was Peter Frampton with Comes Alive, and then it was Kiss after that.
The theme being guitar-driven music.
Yes, there was something about it. But I didn't think about it like then. It was just something that sounded good in my head.
Okay.
Made me feel good about things.
Okay.
You know?
So you get into the band as a child, turned on by, it was a neighbor?
Yes.
Yeah, so did you immediately gravitate toward wanting to play the guitar, or were you just a fan of music at that point?
Just a fan of the music. The entire spectrum of what Kiss was about was so thrilling to me.
Okay.
I couldn't get enough of it. And I'd go to my local record store, and there were countless magazines, and so I was buying everything that I could, but I didn't have a real job at that point. I was probably stealing money from my brothers and sisters to go get all this stuff and start my Kiss collection. And probably is the operative word there, because I can tell you for a fact that was happening.
True confessions.
So you know, I would get the magazines, and I would get the records and the 8-tracks and things like that, and I just could not get enough of them at that point, and I just immersed myself in it. You know,
what was the first album that you purchased?
It had to have been Destroyer, and I honestly cannot answer that definitively, but I think it had to be, because Shout It Out Loud was the first song I ever heard, even though I think Detroit Rock City was the song on the commercial for the Kiss radio. Somehow or other in there, I know I heard Shout It Out Loud, and that just those opening notes just they still resonate. So when we play that song live, I love playing that song. It holds a special place in my heart.
Now, you entered the Kiss fandom at a unique time, because they were, correct me if I'm wrong, they were starting the solo albums, I'm guessing, and then ushering in the first somewhat kind of maybe disco record in Dynasty. But it just I know you well enough, it just didn't matter.
It did not one iota. It was just Kiss.
It was still them.
It was Kiss. I wasn't one of these people that sat back and said, oh my God, they cut their hair, I'm not listening to them anymore. I could not get enough of what they were doing. So to me, when Dynasty came out in 79, that was just as good to me as Destroyer was, as Rock and Roll Over, as Love Gun. Even though they had changed, you know, the outfits and gone with the signature colors and so on and so forth, and everybody was calling them disco and Vegas. To me, it was just Kiss, and I was finally getting my first chance to go see them at the Civic Arena in July of 79, so I was all about it. I could not wait to go see that.
It was, you know, I think our stories are similar, but my take always was, at that time in my life, it was, and Richard and I are about the same age, similar stories, but to me, ultimately, it really came down to, it was just a progression of the band. As a child, as a young person, you couldn't get enough. So while the first 3 albums, and then the originals, and then then there was Destroyer and Rock and Roll Over and Love Gun, it was just a progression to me. Is that kind of how you viewed it? It was just the next thing.
Yes.
And it didn't matter if they were singing Glenn Campbell songs in a cover. I probably would have bought it and liked it anyway.
I would have. That's exactly true. I wasn't that that hardcore about it, because I wasn't there for the beginning. I didn't know about them in 74, 75.
Right.
So I was going to go back and find that. So my initiation was what was current for the year. So, when the solo albums came out in September of 78, my God, it was brand new. So this was Kiss. I'm getting 4 albums all at once. How cool is this? And then Double Platinum came out.
Right.
And so on and so forth. So, oh my God, it was... I'm so grateful and so thankful that I grew up in that age of the record industry at that point, and radio where it was, and turntables and vinyl and 8-tracks and all those mediums, and just having all of that available to me. And if I was going to go shoot basketball at my neighbor's garage, I could take my 8-track player, and if I was going to sit at home, I had my crappy little stereo with the one speaker, But it's
good stuff, isn't it?
That's what makes me appreciate where we're at today.
No question.
I can still go back. I lived through that, and I'm proud of the fact that I lived through that.
Absolutely right. Okay, so let's keep the timeline going. So 80 comes Unmasked and his Creatures. At what point did you decide you were going to pick the guitar up? And was there any influences there besides the band?
Well, my influence was my brother, because he was playing. He had an old Strat, and he had a little Gibson amplifier, and I loved hearing what he was doing, and he was pretty good pretty early on. I struggled. Okay. I can remember sitting in my room with the Woodstock soundtrack on vinyl, listening to Hendrix, and I was trying to play the Star Spangled Banner on the high E string, and I was driving my dad nuts, and I can remember that. So my brother was my inspiration for the guitar, so that's where that came from. And then at the same time, that same friend Chris, he was inspired to pick up the guitar, and so we started playing guitar together.
Okay.
And then I had a friend in school that played drums. And so we would just get together periodically and we'd just mess around with stuff. And everybody, like in your family, everybody likes different things.
Sure.
So you would hear different things at Don's house as opposed to Chris's house and at Rich's house.
Right.
And, I did get influenced by some of the other music, but like with these guys, but everybody's talent ability was different.
Sure.
And I wasn't as good of a guitar player as Chris was. So, but I used it as inspiration. And then when I met Mike, who I started Mr. Speed with, he was so good.
Right.
I had to try and keep up.
Okay.
Or else this was going to go nowhere.
When you put the band together from the very beginning, I'm guessing high school, right? High school age?
Mr. Speed?
Yeah. I mean, no, when you first started the idea of putting a band together.
Oh, yeah.
Or going and
high
playing
school. I was sophomore, junior, so we're talking 80, 81.
Okay, so obviously, I'm guessing, Kiss music was part of what you played, I'm guessing, or probably a good part of it.
Sure.
But the idea was you were probably just playing anything you dug at that moment.
Absolutely.
And take me back to that band. Take me back to memories you have from there, even if it was just in the garage. What else did you play beside Kiss in that band? Do you remember?
Yeah, there was Ken Gruber, Carl Morelli, and Nick Kasanovich comprised my high school band, which was called Lord Rock.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Lord Rock.
I have no idea.
That sounds like a comic book title.
I think we were trying to be pompously progressive, and
sure.
we failed miserably. There were no harmonies. There was gang everything. But we were Blue Oyster Cult was popular at that time. Ted Nugent was popular. Van Halen was popular. So everybody was bringing their little bits and pieces. REO Speedwagon was popular, and we threw everything in there. We weren't exclusive to any one rock genre.
Okay.
We weren't playing any of the new wave stuff, and we weren't playing punk or anything like that. We were trying to stay in the rock and roll vein, but the bands were very diverse.
Okay.
Because I don't think REO Speedwagon's like Blue Oyster Cult's like Van Halen at all. But that's where we were. And it was whatever somebody liked on their own personal time, they would bring it to the band. So Ken liked Steppenwolf, so we did Magic Carpet Ride. And Carl liked Van Halen, so we did Running with the Devil. Those sort of things. That's how we put our set list together, and we rarely ever played out. I think we did a Battle of the Bands, and we did the Hampton VIP, if anybody remembers that.
Hampton VIP.
Oh, yeah, and we did that 2 nights. A 2-night stand at the Hampton VIP, no less. And, we were scared shitless, but for us, it was like they always say, it was playing Madison Square Garden.
Oh, yeah, no
It was
question.
a big deal.
No, I totally get that. So from that band to the concept of maybe wanting to do a Kiss tribute band, how did you get there? Not just physically in members, but how did you get there mentally? Like, where did the idea come from? Was it something that you even thought was viable? Because you folks have been around so long in terms of a pioneer of this type of tribute. You had to be there from the beginning. And so what gave you the initial idea that this could be something unique and might work?
We never thought of the concept as being a tribute band.
Okay.
It was, when I met Mike, it was just 2 guys getting together to play Kiss songs on guitar. That was the concept. The fact that I can sit here 25 years plus later and talk about it as a band is really amazing to me. There was never, I don't even think we ever thought it would last. We had no book. There was nothing to reference.
Right.
There were tribute bands out at the time, and
there
were a few.
Okay.
There was Strutter, and there was
Okay.
Hotter Than Hell, and I think there was Kiss Army.
They predated you by a year or two, a few years.
5 years, maybe.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
5 years, maybe. And these guys, we were aware of them, and we were inspired by them, and we tipped our hat to them because they really blazed the trail. We came along when we were supposed to come along. I don't regret the fact that we were after them. We took what we could from them, but we didn't use them as... We didn't like look at them and go, we're going to do this because they're not. We did what was comfortable for us and just kept moving with it, whatever that meant. So if it meant having a left-handed drummer for 8 months in the band, then we did it. If it meant having a 300-pound plus bass player, we did it. We just kept moving, writing our own story, but not realizing we had a pencil in our hand while we were doing it. We just kept going with it, and it would just. Here I am, all these years later, and I'm in the best place I've ever been. I mean, the band gets on stage, and it's a force. It plays Kiss music. It plays Kiss music, in my opinion, better than 99% of the Kiss bands on the planet.
No, and shameless plug here, but this is why you're on this show. Besides, you're one hell of a good guy, but. I've seen a bunch of Kiss tribute bands. A lot of it had to do with my travels, working with Paul for the years I did, just the contacts within the band, and then going out to a lot of events. And hands down, you folks just smoke everybody. And I'm sorry if it sounds disrespectful to those I know in other tribute bands over the years, but I have to be bluntly honest. There's never been any comparison to me. So that's why you're here, number one. But number two, we're going to talk all about the realism and how hard you folks work at your craft, but I'm still want to get that idea. So you two are playing Kiss songs together.
Yeah.
Who had the organic idea of just, hey, there's a tribute band over there doing Kiss or Kiss, whatever their name is. We can do that. We can do it our way, and we can do it better.
We never thought that, but I saw an article in Metal Edge magazine about Cold Gin, which had Tommy Thayer in it. Jamie St. James, Spiro.
That would be one of the originals, right?
They definitely
So I never saw them. That's one band I never saw them.
I saw Cold Gin that had Archie Gamble and Spiro in it.
After those guys. After Tommy.
After Tommy's, yes, Cold Gin, yes. When we saw the article, I brought the guys together because at that point we had found a bass player and a drummer. And even organically like that, after we got the bass player and drummer behind Mike and I, we still weren't sure that we wanted to be a band. There was still a lot of speculation that we could do something with this. Was everybody committed enough to do it?
Okay, that's fair enough.
Then when I presented them with the article at Eaton Park on the boulevard, Ohio River Boulevard.
Right up the road from here.
That's where we had this meeting. We said to ourselves, I think we can do this. So let's try it. So that was the place where it happened. That was the Metal Edge magazine was the article that I showed them. They all looked at it and thought, yeah, I think we can do this too. And that's a huge part of being in a band, as you well know, is having 4 people buying into the same idea. And if you don't have that, and when you don't have that, it's time to...
Yeah, it won't work.
Yeah.
It just won't work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would like to have been at that table just to hear the conversation. So all 4 of you are there at the table, and you say to them what exactly?
I believe it was something along the lines of, I think this is where I'd like to take what we're doing. I think we can do this, but we didn't know where that was going to go.
But what you were doing was getting together and just jamming out the Kiss tunes.
Yes.
Exclusively.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Just playing the music for our own self-gratification. That was it.
Rough years here we're talking
1993.
about? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Kiss Unplugged fan conventions have not happened yet. That was 95, right? So this was before that.
This is right
in the
after
middle,
Revenge.
Yeah, right in the Revenge era.
Yeah, right after Revenge. Kiss Alive 3 was out. You know, that's right when all this started happening. The Unplugged thing hadn't even happened, you know, like you said. Yeah. So,
and the rumor of the reunion had not even on the radar.
No. So I had no idea what I was getting myself in for. I didn't. But I can tell you assuredly that as long as I knew Mike was on my side, I was cool with wherever I was going.
Right.
Harry and Bray, who comprised the bass player and drummer spot in the band, I didn't give them enough respect or consideration at that point, but I knew as long as I had Mike next to me that there was nothing that we couldn't try. And if we failed at it, big deal, we just keep going.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So 93, you guys get together, and this is the idea is there. So you did come up with the actual. You presented the idea to the other three.
I did. It was my idea. Yeah.
And all three lockstep, they were ready.
Yeah. Everybody just agreed. We all agreed that night at Eaton Park that this was something we wanted to try.
So talk to me about the first time you folks put the war paint on.
We actually did that at Mike's house in Swissville.
Okay.
And the funny thing about Mike that night, and I've got photos from that experience. When Mike did it, he used his old Kiss makeup kit from the 70s. So if anybody who's ever done this and done Ace, you know that there's a special kind of silver makeup that you need to use, and you need to mix it and all this sort of thing. Well, they used something that was very gray in appearance and end result, and Mike put that on and he looked like a corpse. I mean, it was so bad. I mean, we were so bad. The makeup designs were so big and so rough. There was no crispness to anything. We didn't know about powder. We just put it on our face. Everything was sticky. We were afraid to move. Because one of the most asked questions we get is, what do you do to prevent the makeup from itching?
Yeah.
And it doesn't itch all these years later, but the trick to that is powder.
Right.
That'll solve everything. Setting powder.
Okay.
And I learned that from a clown.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, clowns do it.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
They would know better than anybody.
They put powder in a tube sock, and then they drop it on their face. That's how they do it. That's not what I do, because I've learned over the years that you touch black and white together, and you get gray real quick.
You got a problem.
You have to be savvy about it.
All right, so you put the makeup on that first night. Did you guys go and play with it on?
No,
so
it was
you just
strictly just to put it on to see how ridiculous we were going to look.
So, but you have to remember your very first quote unquote dress rehearsal, right?
Of course.
First one? Okay.
Yeah, Hollywood Music. In McKees Rocks.
It was in Hollywood.
We rented a rehearsal space over there. We paid for half of those rehearsals. The other half we kind of skipped town on.
Right.
So,
understood.
They weren't real happy with us at that time. But yeah, we had a room over there on the third floor, and that's where we rehearsed. And we actually printed up invitations and invited friends to come and see us dressed up with the makeup and our earliest costumes, which were the suits from the Dress to Kill album cover.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask you. So the first actual costumes, and that was a very smart thing to do because it was easy entry there.
And cost effective.
Very cost effective. Just buy some suits that are somewhat familiar with the Dress to Kill cover.
Yes. And
that's a good entry point. So that worked out good.
Yes.
And it's funny how it's all kind of come full circle with in the band, for that matter, a couple years ago, right?
For sure.
Okay, so you have these suits on, and you have the makeup, and what was the very first gig? And did you have the name Mr. Speed?
We did. Mike and I knew. We decided that in his bedroom one night when we were jamming, because we started throwing names around. When we realized this was going to be a band, he and I got together, and we were playing guitar together, and we said, okay, what are we going to call this thing? If we're going to actually put a band together and do this, what are we going to call it? So we looked at whatever else was out there. Strutter, Kiss Army, that sort of thing. And we said, we want to take a name that was going to, if you came and saw us, you were a real Kiss fan.
Right.
So we wanted something left of center. We didn't want something popular. And looking back on it now, I think that could have been the kiss of death, because I think it's kind of hindered us. Because if you don't know what Mr. Speed is, you could think we're a thrash band.
Okay.
It's not easily recognizable with Kiss. And I've been interviewed over the years, and people say, well, where'd you get the name from? I don't get it. And I'd say, well, you pick up their album Rock and Roll Over, and it's a song on there.
Right.
So most tribute acts pick a name that's synonymous with the act that they're paying tribute to, a hit of some sort. We didn't do that. We went with something that was outside the box because we wanted to be a little bit different.
Sure.
And that's how that all happened.
And see, that's totally interesting to me, because I never gave it a second thought, but I know the catalog so well. It was just, of course, that's their name. But
sure.
Of course, that wasn't, and it's a great song. But that, obviously, I get it now. So I could see where that the casual fan or the non-Kiss fan, just the rock and roll fan, could look at that and say, that does sound like something outside of a Kiss tribute band.
And when I met the band in 2000, Tommy Thayer was the road manager at that point. So he introduced my wife and I to Paul, backstage in Chicago and said, "This is Rich from the Kiss tribute band, Mr. Speed." And there was like a second of silence, and Paul looked at me and goes, "Cool song to name your band after."
Yeah.
So that was all the validation I needed at that point.
You got the best validation imaginable, right?
Yeah. You can say what you want about what I called the band, but the guy himself told me it was a cool idea.
I know for a fact that's one that's high on his list of favorite songs that was penned as well too.
Yeah.
So no, I get it. But again, being so knowledgeable about the Kiss catalog like I am, I never gave it a second thought. But again, I'm not looking at it from I'm looking at it myopically from just my standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, so that's interesting, because if you had to do it again, would you have another name in mind?
Honestly,
no.
Ever
crossed your mind?
That's a really cool question. I've never thought about it. Never. I think maybe at one point years ago we thought about Rock Bottom.
Okay.
But that I've never given it any serious.
But that's not an overly popular song either, though.
No,
it's kind of
it's not.
A great tune.
So we put the tagline with our name in all marketing and advertising. It's either a Kiss tribute, a tribute to Kiss, or a night of Kiss, Mr. Speed. It's always one of those three things gets tagged along with our name, so that people know.
I like the third one.
I do too.
A lot.
And that's the most recent one, a night of Kiss.
Yeah, I like that.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah, the word tribute doesn't have to be in there. I mean, and that's
and people are starting to use Experience and Valhalla and all these different things, and they're trying to be so smart about it.
Right?
Yeah, it's like we're the best.
It's a fucking rock and roll band, right? Come on,
you're a tribute band. Come on, man, you're stealing from them. We're all doing it.
Go ahead. This is
man.
It, man.
I get a little. I remember one time meeting Jim Seda, who's now the bass player in my band, and Jim's a really good friend of mine now, and I love him, and he's added so much to the band, and he's a team player. But I met him in 1994 at a Kiss Expo or convention in New Jersey, and I can remember walking up to him with my knees shaking, and I said, "Hey, I'm Rich from the Kiss tribute band, Mr. Speed. Can you tell me how you made your boots?" And he just looked at me and he goes, "Duh, another guy, from a Kiss tribute band." And I was just like, I couldn't have shrunk. It was like somebody, Honey, I Shrunk the Kid.
Yeah,
and he just poured water on me, and I just went like this.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
And I thought,
that sucks.
I never forgot it. So when he came to audition for my band,
revenge is a bitch. Huh?
When he needed a job, yes. When he needed a job and he walked into our rehearsal room,
that's great.
The first thing I said to him, remember back in 1994 when I asked you how you made your boots and you could have cared less about me? And I said, can we clear the air about that right now? I said, because now you want to play in my band. After the fact, he says to our drummer at that time, "What's with this guy? He remembers that one thing, and what the hell?" So I was like, "Hey, I needed to cleanse my soul of that experience because you are always remembered for how you treat people.
There's no question.
Way more than anything else.
There's no question about it. There's no question. So, all right, to continue the path here, so my brain can keep up with what's going on.
Sure.
You guys got together in '93. The idea. The first actual gig was where? And do you remember the date?
Yes. The very first gig we ever played was June 24th, 1994 at the Decade in Oakland.
What a spot.
Unbelievable that I was able to play in a place with that much rock and roll history in this town.
And what do you remember from that show?
A lot.
And?
I remember it being a very, very hot night.
With makeup on?
Yes. We were putting the makeup on.
And suit jackets.
If you've never been to the Decade, or if you've been to the Decade, you know that they used a room upstairs that was, I think, someone's apartment for the dressing room. So here we come with all of our caboodles and all of our makeup, and we're doing this for the first time with our knees knocking, and we have no idea what's going to happen. And we're putting it on, and there's no air conditioning, and it's melting off of our faces. And I've got photos from that night, and you can see how shiny the makeup was because we didn't use powder that night. We hadn't learned that technique yet.
Right.
And we set our meager amplifiers up on stage. We had nothing. We had a banner that hung on the wall that was a speed limit sign that was upside down. So instead of it saying like speed limit, it said limit speed or something, and the number 55, but it was spray painted, and it was like somebody vandalized the sign and wrote Mr. Speed.
Okay.
That was our original logo.
Okay.
Because we didn't have any money.
Right.
You know, I think we were borrowing half of the gear that we used that night, but the end result was over 250 people. You couldn't get another person in the door with a shoehorn.
So you guys must have promoted that show pretty well then.
We did what we could, but the majority of the promotion was done by our friends who were in the opening band, which I think at that point they were called the Addicts. They were a punk band, and they had their foot in the door with Dominic at the Decade.
Mm-hmm.
So they made table tents for us, and they made posters, and they plastered, and we hit it out of the park, but it was all because of them.
Right.
If it wasn't for those guys, I don't even know if we would have ever gotten off the ground.
Really?
But I owe everything to those guys in that band. And Tommy Osh has since passed away, and I remember driving in from Cleveland for his funeral. He was in a car accident one night coming home from work, and he died over near downtown Pittsburgh. But there isn't a day that goes by where I don't do Mr. Speed, and I think about Ange and Tommy and those guys and what they did to help us get our foot in the door with a Decade.
Sure.
Because at that point in what little career we had, we were the Kiss tribute band that practiced all the time and never played out. So when we got gigs, it was maybe once or twice a year.
Got it.
You know, and it was hard because nobody gave a shit about us. Yeah. They didn't want a Kiss tribute band.
Yeah, especially that was even before Kiss became a quote-unquote thing again.
Yeah. Because
you're talking pre-reunion.
Yeah.
You're talking pre-convention.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking pre-Psycho Circus, all that stuff.
Yes.
First farewell tour. Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they were, would you say, let me ask you this question. So you actually started the band where Kiss may have been, from a commercial standpoint, at their lowest.
Oh, absolutely.
Would you agree?
Oh, sure. I mean, ask somebody who saw the recent End of the Road tour. Mm-hmm. Were you at Revenge in October of 1992 at the Civic Arena? I'll bet not.
No, most won't be.
Okay, so they were playing for 3,000, 5,000 people at that point.
I think.
You know? So that's always been my thing too. This when it's trendy to go see Kiss because that's the way society is now.
Right.
You know,
it happened in '96, I think. It happened again in 2000.
Oh, for sure.
And it's happening now.
For sure.
Yeah, it's the trend. It's the show of the summer for things to do.
Yeah.
People looking for things to do. People looking to get their buzz on.
Yeah.
And hang out with their friends. God bless it. There's nothing wrong with any of that. But in terms of what they actually know about this band, for those who, I feel it. My friend, we share the same thing. I remember going to I'll deviate a little bit. I went to the 96 shows in Pittsburgh. There was back-to-back nights. Went the first night with all my friends, and it was amazing. And then the next night I went with a good friend of mine, Mike. He's since passed. And I sat there and I watched that night, and I said, wow. I said, how many people here really even know the Elder? How many people here have Creatures of the Night?
Right.
How many people here even know what the second side of Crazy Nights is? What's even on that record? The point being, it didn't get me angry, but I remember looking at it introspectively, like, wow, man, this is like a bunch of just people having a good time, which is okay. Yeah, but that's not what it's about, though. At least for me, it wasn't. Anyways,
no.
My selfish, myopic look. It was like, what are you even here for?
Yeah. No, because Kiss...
Do you get it?
Kiss was our club.
Pretty much. Yeah,
it was our
people
club.
were invading our club, right?
Yeah. They were... Yes, the president was letting all these morons into the club that didn't belong. And they were taking the energy... or creating, I don't know, I don't consider that sincere energy when you've got something like that, when you're just doing something because it's the hip thing to do.
And what you just said is so spot on. And I just had a conversation with a gentleman who went to see the current incarnation in Atlanta. He said the same thing, die hard like us. He's like, I went there, and after like the third song, outside of some other lip syncing stuff that's going on, I kind of tuned out because I just saw a bunch of people. He said a lot of the audience wasn't really interested song to song. They were just kind of there, having a good time.
Oh, yeah.
Now, that is what it is. Again, and the band's eating it up financially, so that's actually success for them, I suppose, to some degree.
Of course.
But, again, for someone who really, the band had a mark on their life, you look back on that, it's kind of like, what are you going to do? I mean, it's just, I remember having the same feeling in 96, the second night. I was a little more sober the second night, but I remember saying to myself, "Wow, because so think about for what you folks do. So the great thing about what you probably do is the bulk of who comes to see you are Kiss fans. Would you not? Am I right? Am I right?
I would say that, yes.
Now, there's people out for a good time, and
Sure.
they hear about the band, and they might not be a huge Kiss fan, but they hear the band solid. It's a good spectacle. They'll come out of curiosity too, some. But you really, I think your appeal would really be to the hardcore fan of that band who knows all the idiosyncrasies. They're going to look at you critically, and we'll talk about that too as we go.
Yeah.
But am I right?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's people. A huge compliment that we get is when someone comes who's not a Kiss fan and they walk up to us at the meet and greet afterwards and they say, "I didn't know anything about Kiss. I came with a buddy of mine, and you guys just were so entertaining." And for me, that's a huge compliment, because if we can reel somebody in who knows nothing about the band and keep them for the entire show, we've done our job. We're doing something right.
Especially, too, because and the one aspect of the band that doesn't get talked about much is the band never had a lot of radio play. Now, in Pittsburgh especially, no, because WDVE had a huge bias. WDVE had a huge bias against that band for the 80s and most of the early 90s, I felt. Even late 70s for that matter. But I think just generally, their songs, outside of maybe 3 or 4, that were somewhat commercially successful, put Beth aside, but just rock and roll songs.
Sure.
The rest of it, the catalog is kind of, people might hear it and they go, I think I know who that is, I'm not really sure. So you didn't have these iconic songs. So for you to play that entire set and play it so well to captivate them with the energy from the show, that's a huge compliment to you. It isn't like you're going to a Bruce Springsteen in person, like a tribute band, and all 21 songs were in the top 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody knew them.
Yeah, so it's a home run.
Instantaneously,
Right.
as long as you play them adequately, right?
Yeah.
So,
and if the person's there just having a good time, they're drinking. Once you get your drink on, everything sounds great. So
pretty much.
I mean, so you win by default. But if somebody's literally, we used to get yelled at by bars because they didn't make any money when we played bars because everybody was there fixed on us.
Right.
They weren't going to the bar to get drinks.
That's interesting.
And we would get paid at the end of the night, and they would say, can we try and do something different next time? Can you give me a break on the price because I didn't make as much as I thought I was going to make tonight because everybody's watching you.
Yeah.
Ha.
Yeah, which is so different from any
Did
other
you see that
band
Kiss
in the
reference
club.
I did right there?
Yeah, I get it. What album was that? That was Just the Kill?
It was Hotter Than Hell.
Hotter Than Hell, okay. That was one off. That's a very interesting comment. I would never have thought of that, but it makes all the sense in the world. You go to any club, even if it's a band, and I go see, matter of fact, this evening, we don't date these shows, but this evening I'm having 2 talented Pittsburgh musicians on here from a band that I'm very familiar with. But even when I go to see them and they pack them in, there's still time to go get your drink on.
Sure.
There's still time to go to the bar.
Sure.
But for you to captivate an audience to the point where they're not even going to the bar to get their drink, that's hugely impressive.
They don't want to lose their spot.
Yeah, that's hugely impressive.
And that's a huge compliment to us because we like to present the show as a rock concert.
Absolutely.
People say, "Oh, can you take a break? Can you take a break?"
Yeah, how does that
no,
work?
No, I can't.
This act doesn't work.
I can't. No, so sorry.
There's no sets here.
No.
We do one fucking show and we're done.
90 to 120 minutes.
Exactly.
And when it's over, then.
It's over. Yeah, then you can break. After you're exhausted and like your face is burned off.
Yeah.
Then you can take a break.
When I saw Van Halen in 1981, I didn't want them to take a break. They didn't take a break. They played from start to finish, and it was a rock show. The only band I ever saw that took a break was Motley Crue, and that was in like the mid-2000s, and I was pissed.
Yeah, I didn't know that happened.
It was like $85 a ticket at that point, and they come out, they played some movie before the show, and then they come out and they played for like a half an hour, and then they had to take a break for a half an hour.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the?
I didn't know that, but my comment was that I saw Rush do that a couple years ago, and the crowd seemed fine with it. Maybe Rush can get away with that, but not for me. I want to be pummeled from the time the band comes out to the time I want to be exhausted, sweaty, and I'm going to go, damn, that was a good show. That's what I want.
Yeah.
But I can see where a club owner would say, hey, can you do 3 sets? How can you guys do 3 sets? It starts, it rips your face off, and it ends.
Right.
And you may have an encore,
right,
and then it's done.
Right.
Right?
And in the early days, in the late 90s, when we played bars, we used to do 3-hour shows.
Wow.
We did multiple sets then because we were still cutting our teeth. We just wanted to play. Right. So whatever the club owner said we needed to do, we did it. It wasn't like we walked in there and we were the honcho.
No, I get
that
it.
wasn't the case.
You have to do what they say.
It's a lot easier now for me to come in and dictate how things are going to go.
Certainly.
You want to step up and debate this with me? Well, then we'll have a discussion.
Certainly.
Of course, yeah.
Certainly. So I've watched your stage show evolve over time. Now, I wasn't familiar with you until probably like 2004, so I didn't see before that.
That's fair.
But everything has 2003 actually. But I've watched the evolution of the stage show, and what I love about your band, number one for me, is the way you play the Starchild, because you just have it, and I don't see. That's what I always look for. I know people will look to what their favorite member is. I guess to me, if I go see a Kiss tribute band, I'm looking to see how Paul Stanley is handled, because I believe, in my opinion, that's the one. The Starchild is the one character that is the hardest by far to pull off. All the vocals, the nuances, the New York accent in the vocals, then the Southern drawl at times, the high register on many songs, the contrary to popular belief, Paul still plays a lot in the show. I mean, there's a belief out there he doesn't. But to pull everything off, I think the Gene character and the Peter and the Ace are easier, in my opinion. That's just what I believe. So when I go see a tribute act, the great thing about what I noticed about you folks a long time ago is before I even knew you, the Stanley character, the guy who's playing Stanley, he's got to figure it out. So I can watch the rest of it.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, sure.
So.
Sure.
But I've also saw how everything has evolved, and there's an authentic thing about you folks, and I can't exactly put my finger on it, but authentic's the word, and I can see the attention to detail. So talk to me a little bit about that, about just little moments where you evolved on this. Let's just say the stage for now, before we get into the costumes.
Sure.
Like, you guys have progressed and progressed and progressed, where the stage is. It's just real. It's very, very real. And my question is it a continuous progression, or over the years have you targeted like the 76 tour? Have you targeted the 79 tour? Have you targeted the 74 tour? Have you taken different tours and targeted them in terms of the stage? Or is it kind of an amalgamation of different years?
I think that's fair. When we did the Rock and Roll Over era outfits, yeah, we had some lighted staircases. So if you remember when they did the HBO special in 77, 78 in Japan, they had the Love Gun stage, but they were still wearing the Rock and Roll Over outfits.
Correct.
So yes, we kind of did follow that as a pattern for a little while. Now, but then there came a point where we thought, when was Kiss the most popular? Oh, 77, Love Gun. Okay, that's the outfits we're going to wear. We're going to target that, because when people come to see us, they're going to associate a time probably when they saw Kiss look like that. When Kiss came back in 96 for the reunion tour, what did they wear? They wore the Love Gun outfits. Right. It just made it easier for people to associate with us. Maybe because our name wasn't so synonymous with that of a Kiss tribute or a Kiss band of some sort. So yeah, and actually going forward into 2020, we're going to transition into a whole new era of production on stage. The stage is going to change. The outfits are going to change, that sort of thing. So I guess there is an era of affirmation where we've stuck with something, say 77, 78, created the backline and props to represent that.
Okay.
And so that it all ties in together, so that when the fan comes to see that show, they go, I remember that. I get that. That all makes sense. It's all part of pulling it in. And then when we play and they see that it's not a bunch of tapes and it's actually us, then we draw them in even more. And we don't do it exactly like Kiss does it, because we're not them.
Right.
There's aspects of our personalities that are going to come out in our performances.
Absolutely.
And you can't deny that. I don't want to deny that.
Right.
Because I'm not Paul Stanley. I'm just trying to make you believe for 90 minutes or 120 minutes that I am.
Right.
And then when the show's over, I'm Rich again.
Right.
I have no problem. There's a lot of cats out there that portray Paul.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the one thing. That's the one thing I've told you from day one, since the moment we first met. I said I respect you because when that show's over, there's Rich. I mean, you're not lost in the image, and I think it happens with a lot of, not just the Starchild character, but with the demon character and the spaceman. I think there are people that go and portray them in Kiss bands. Sometimes it carries beyond that, and it gets almost comical at sometimes.
Oh no, they take it home.
You have to laugh.
No, they take it home, and I do laugh.
I know you've seen it multiple times.
I do.
Right?
Yeah, I know. We keep very in tune with, between the four guys that are in my band right now. Everybody has got such a track record with other Kiss tribute bands or people that have played in other Kiss tribute bands. Right. So we keep a really close eye on what these guys are doing. And because it's like any other occupation.
Yeah.
You have to keep an eye on the competition, what's going on out there, what are people doing, how can we be better? You know, I look at what these other bands are doing and I think, well, we're not doing too bad because I don't want to do anything that they're doing.
Sure.
And we're not doing anything that they're doing.
Sure.
You know, there's bands out there that have some member who's independently wealthy. Well, you should have the best stage production of any Kiss tribute band in the world.
You would think.
But nope, they don't. And when the band plays, it's like, oh my God, what are you listening to that you're using that as a reference tool to then try and replicate it on a stage where you're taking money from somebody.
Right.
You know, which is, in my opinion, unfair. I got so many issues with some of these bands because I really put, I think you asked me before, where does all this come from? Where does what we put on stage come from? And it comes from our hearts. Because if, one thing I know for sure about Kiss fans, and I can't speak for other bands fans, but Kiss fans are going to know when somebody's fake. You're going to have your own personal taste about individuals, and someone's going to like this Kiss tribute more than Mr. Speed, but if we got up there and half-assed it, people will figure that out from the very first song.
Yeah.
Our job is to, when we bust into whatever that show opener is, you're going to stand there and go, holy shit. Okay, and then when we start drawing you in with our mannerisms and things like that, you're going to go, holy shit. And by the end of the night, it's holy fuck.
Right.
You know, these guys were badass, and that is what I want. I don't want you to leave going, it wasn't really my thing. And there are naysayers out there, and opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one.
I mean, you can't please everybody.
And I won't.
I
won't.
But would you not agree, though, if the music isn't there, then all the prancing around or all the makeup or all the whatever money, how much money a stage can be bought for, it doesn't make any difference.
Nope.
If it doesn't sound like the band.
Yep.
Which is, again, it all comes back to the music. It always has.
Yep.
And a lot of the naysayers of that band think that's not the case, but the catalog was everything.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was for you, too.
Of course.
If they sounded like shit when you were little, I mean, if the music was not catchy, if the music didn't have hooks in it, if the vocals were bad, you would never have dug them. I don't give a shit how many bombs they blew up, right?
Right. And what I've always maintained, I can't say it started this way, but one of my things is if you close your eyes at a Mr. Speed show, it's going to sound like a Kiss record. And if you open your eyes at a Mr. Speed show, it's going to remind you of a time when you saw Kiss, whether it was on TV, live, on a poster, in a photo, whatever. If I can combine both those worlds in your brain, then we're on point.
Oh, then you win.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's what people are coming to see, especially those that are really fans of the band. And that's where I think you folks set yourself apart. Now, I have not seen every Kiss tribute band. I have not. I never saw Spiro play. Never saw Tommy play. Spiro was one hell of a Gene Simmons from the video footage I seen a long time ago. I mean,
huge fan of that guy.
Yeah. I mean,
huge.
No question. But I didn't see those eras. But what I have seen over the past 15-ish years or so, no one can touch you. And again, it comes back to that word authentic to me. Now, let's talk a little bit about the costumes and how important it is, the nuances in your own performance, because that's where, I mean, being a Paul Stanley fan my whole life, I've probably forgotten more than I could even comprehend in terms of just loving that guy's performance, both vocally and stage-wise. He was just, so you're talking to the right guy here, because I watched everything going back to when I was a kid. But how much studying do you do? And do you have to do that anymore, or was that maybe something more prevalent when you folks started years ago? You really dived into the persona, because that man has changed over every performer changes.
Yes.
Vocally, how much they move around, the whole thing. I mean, what have you done, or how did it start, and how deeply have you dived into the person himself?
Yeah, when I started, I was scared shitless. Okay, first of all, it's one thing to stand on stage in a cover band with a guitar and a little amp and play in shoes, regular shoes. It's one thing.
Right.
But when you put 6 to 7 inch platforms on and you're trying to be somebody else and you're playing a guitar, it is a definite challenge to do that. So when I started, I was scared, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just tried to do things. Then I met my current wife, who was a big fan of the band.
Right.
And she would say, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? So
Okay.
then that opened my mind up to doing other things. I never took it to the overtly sexual aspect of Paul, because sometimes he can be, pretty out there. And the reason for that is we have a lot of kids coming to our shows.
Right.
I won't do that.
Right.
Okay. I'll stay within a safe parameter that still makes you believe, but makes it entertaining as well.
Family friendly.
Yes.
Family friendly.
As far as we did watch a lot of tape, a lot of VHS tape back in the day, a ton. So we would sit around and say, you should try this, or why don't you try that, or maybe incorporate this. And then at rehearsals, we'd try things too to see what would work. And then of course live, you were a little more hesitant to try things because you wanted to stay safe and not embarrass yourself so much. But I think the rehearsals and in your own home, that was where you kind of worked on things to see what you could take to the show. And as the years have gone by, I've gotten very comfortable. Obviously, I'm a lot older now, and my body's breaking down a little bit too, which is one thing that people, I think, is unfair when they try to criticize Paul. He's got 12 or 13 years on me, and he's still doing things that I won't even try.
Right.
With my totally replaced right knee, there's certain things that I physically cannot do. So I try to incorporate from 1974 through 2019 into my portrayal of Paul Stanley.
Okay.
Because there are people that are going to come see us today that saw them in 1977, but maybe didn't see them in 2015. So if I can do something that reminds them of 1977, I'm okay.
Okay.
But I don't stay era specific with my portrayal of Paul.
That was my next question.
Yeah, no, I am the entire 40-plus year career of him.
Like he is.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes. And vocally too. If we do some of the older songs like Strutter, I'll sing it in a way that's maybe more indicative of the 70s. If we do something like Lick It Up, I'm going to do something that's maybe 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, because I need to keep my brain stimulated. I can't just stick on something and do it that way and just be on autopilot all the time. That, for me, there's no gratification in that. It's just like playing the same venues over and over again. Why do I want to play for the same 150 people every time we take the band out?
Sure.
I want to play for new markets and new people, so I can prove myself to people and they can say, yeah, you guys are pretty good.
So naturally, you folks have a routine to some degree. Naturally, on this song, this is going to happen. On this song, this is going to happen. Maybe not so much with you, but definitely with the demon character, because there's other specific things he has to do. So do you feel, as the shows go on, what must be, I would think would be empowering, is you have that freedom to improvise and to change from show to show. Like I'm going to sing this song a certain way, but I'm going to dance around a little bit and do something that's more comfortable for me. So it isn't monotonous, because that has to be at some point. You don't want to follow. I guess my point is you don't want to follow a very strict script all the time.
No. What I say from show to show varies. And sometimes
That's very cool.
I've been guilty of having diarrhea of the mouth, because I'll get involved in some banter.
Says Paul.
I'll get some banter rolling, and I won't know when to shut the hell up. But it becomes event specific. There may be somebody in the crowd that triggers something in my brain that I want to address.
Right.
And what I don't tolerate at our shows are people that stand there and consider us a wedding band. They start yelling out song titles. And we had a guy a week and a half ago in Youngstown that kept yelling out Parasite. And it's not in the show. And I am not going to listen to this knucklehead yell at me every time we finish a song.
Right.
So I call him out, and I give him his 2 minutes of fame. Andy Warhol gave him 15. He's getting 2 with me, and then we're going back to the show, because it can't be about these knuckleheads.
No.
So to kind of get back at your question, the show is scripted to a certain point. From our mannerisms and the arrangements of the songs. But the way that I control the show as the ringleader, so to speak, it varies from show to show, and the guys are comfortable with me and they know how to feed off of me.
Okay.
And even with Mark being on board this year as our new ace, we're learning and we're developing this rapport with one another that it's probably been the easiest transition of the 3 aces that I've had in the band.
Okay.
Because he's a much better guitar player than our previous guitar player, and he loves his instrument. So he and I feed off of each other. And Jim and I have such a history together, and we have a lot of experience. And Quentin just kicks ass on the drums. He's a 23-year-old kid who just plays his heart out every single night. And I love watching his drum solo. I actually like watching all three of their solos, and I'm the only cat in the band that doesn't have a solo right now. I've watched the other three guys.
You're not going to take that like Animalizer and like create your own solo.
That was what I used to do, but no, because I feel as a leader of the band, I like to showcase my band, and I like to showcase the guys in the band and give them. I do enough up there talking,
right,
and I'm kind of the center of attention. I don't need any more.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. I like to let my bandmates have some time.
Of all the songs, the catalog, and all the things all the different songs, and how do you put a set list together anymore? That has to be hard. Just like the band, it's probably hard for them. How do you choose? Do you change things up for your own amusement as well? I would think because you'd have to, right? Have to. If it's not fun for us, it's not going to be fun for the fans. It's kind of like my mantra for the show.
Yeah, if
it's not fun for me, I'm not doing it.
And you know what? I also consider ourselves ambassadors for KISS.
Yeah, I get it.
So when they're not around and they're not playing these little towns,
right? I get it.
We go in and we can teach about songs that they're not familiar with, and I'll explain what album it's from, what year it's from, things like that. So maybe they'll hear us do "Lover All I Can" off of "Dress to Kill,"
right?
And I'll say this came out in March of 1975, and it's on this album, and it's got a really great groove, and hope you dig it,
right?
And then depending on the applause afterwards, we'll usually have 1 to 3 people come up to us and say, "Man, you played 'Lover All I Can," and that was the best song of the night.
I get that. So when you put a set list together, though, are you cognizant of the necessity for song flow?
Yes. Key
for sure.
Key change. Yes. Yeah. How things can morph from one song to another. That makes it pleasant for the ear.
Well, so if I would imagine early on that was easier when you were playing. Let's say you were doing all 76 prior because it was all half step down. There wasn't any key change.
Yeah.
And now when you blend in stuff from the 80s, for the most part,
we're still playing it in E flat.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not dropped down to D yet. We're not doing that.
That was my next question. We're still very pleasing E flat.
Yes, we're still able to do it that way. And believe me, if I get to a point where I can't sing in that key and we have to drop it down, that's probably time to stop.
Well, a lot of the 80s stuff was initially recorded in A440 or even higher. Like a lot of the Crazy Nights album. I was talking to Bruce Kulick one time, and don't laugh. It was after Bruce and I we started doing. We had a relationship where we developed a friendship, and I was doing some guitar work with Bruce. I texted him one night out of the blue, and I said, I can't figure out some song off of Crazy Night. I'm sitting at home trying to learn it, and I texted the guy. I said, "Hey, what key is this in?" He goes, "I don't know. We probably recorded it in a 440, and they put it on the board, and then they sped it up, or they the pitch transposed or whatever, and they raised it up, and it's probably somewhere between 440 or a couple semitones higher." I'm like, that's not helping me, Bruce. That's not helping me. Yeah. I'm some novice trying to figure this out. And you're telling me it's a couple semitones higher than A440.
Yeah.
Not helping me. The point was, in the 80s, when he was doing the vocal gymnastics, Mr. Stanley, a lot of that stuff was very fast, overly done, overly processed, and the keys were all funny. So when you bring that down a half step, does it ever sound different to you, or you think as a half step still pretty much safe? It's when you go down a full step.
It's very safe. Yeah.
Okay. Half step is fine then.
Yeah. We've never even. I shouldn't say that. I think one time we did "All Hell's Breaking Loose" and we put that down a full step because it was easier to play.
Okay.
That way. That's a real challenging song. We did that a couple of years ago in Miami, but that's the only time I think that's ever happened. We stay in E flat, for everything that we do to this day. And we've never faltered from that.
I think that's where that music belongs.
I agree.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, it started there, right?
Yeah.
And I think somewhere around, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a monumental tour for me for that band was the Hide Your Heart, that album.
The Hot in the Shade.
Hot in the Shade tour. I don't think the album was that great, but that's when they kind of revisited some of the old stuff, and it seemed like they took everything back down to the E-flat tuning, and it sounded more like authentic KISS to me.
Well, it was a killer tour. I saw that at Star Lake, and when they came out and opened with "I Stole Your Love," I think everybody just, their jaws hit the floor.
Yeah.
Because you hadn't heard that song in years.
Yeah.
You immediately were transported back to KISS Alive 2.
Which is what you guys do.
And that's true. That is true.
Right?
Yes. We put you on, we're time travelers. We put you on the roller coaster called KISS. and play a whole bunch of stuff. We don't play it entirely safe. We always throw in 1 to 2 vault tracks or deep tracks into our shows to this day.
Okay.
Because that's always been Mr. Speed's thing.
Have you played songs that you suspect the band's probably never played live?
Yes.
Give me some examples.
Strange Ways.
Okay.
Love Her All I Can. I know they've done it more recently. I think they did it on the cruise.
Yeah, I don't
a
think
few years back.
A big show though.
Baby Driver.
Yeah.
Now
is that off of
Baby Driver's
off Chris's solo album, is it?
No, it's off Rock and Roll Over.
That is. Okay, yeah. I'm thinking of something else.
And that's got a real weird, time signature and arrangement.
The chords on the offbeat, isn't it?
Yeah, the chords on the offbeat. And it used to challenge us like crazy. But when you pull it off, it's fun. And, people, again, it's when we can play something that people aren't familiar with and they go, wow, that was cool. I didn't know. Another compliment is people come to see us and they say, I didn't realize I knew so many Kiss songs.
Right.
After they see one of our shows.
That's very cool.
Again, being ambassadors for the band, I love that we never know what kind of day somebody's having. We can turn their life around for a few hours and we can teach them about something more than Beth and Rock and Roll All Night. Mm-hmm. That is very, very gratifying for me. Mm-hmm. For me, I can't speak for the other 3 guys in the band, but I know for me personally, when we can teach people about it, I really get off on that. I dig that.
What's your top 3 songs? Not your favorite songs, but your top 3 songs to play live. They might be your favorites, but the top 3 songs of this band that you enjoy playing live the most.
Mr. Speed, Creatures of the Night, and Unholy.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Unholy is in there.
Yeah. Really, really cool. Great guitar.
So from a guitar standpoint.
Not from
a vocal standpoint though, right?
I have to do a high vocal harmony part, behind Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like doing it.
Okay.
Creatures.
That surprises me a little bit.
We do the Kiss Alive 3 version of Creatures, which is very fast, but we keep the tempo more to our liking.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on in there. A very, very cool song. And Mr. Speed is just a cool riff.
Yeah, and there's no question. That's always that song in what was the other song off that record? I think it was that were kind of I can't remember. There's Mr. Speed and another song off of that record.
Take Me?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, there were 2 in my brain synonymous as a kid. There was just a correlation between those 2.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, maybe the little baby chords that you're playing on the D and G string and some little fingerings you do to make the parts of the riff happen.
Why are they so underrated as I guess I should say songwriters?
They're not. Look at all the people that are out there that are huge Kiss fans that said it was because of you that I became Pantera. It was because of you that I became Skid Row. It was because of you that I became Stryper.
I still think
look at all those people. Come on.
I think you're right, man. But I still think there's an element of just they're not getting their due respect for the actual songs.
That's like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Nobody gives a shit. Yeah. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was the Kiss Army and the Kiss fans. That's like when we were part of that exclusive club growing up and we were going to see the shows and buying all the merch and the magazines and posters, and then when it started to fade in their popularity and they took the makeup off and everything, and there were hard times, another Kiss pun, and they came back, and we were letting all these people into our exclusive club where we felt safe. Because I'm sure you probably went through a period in your life where you went into your room and maybe you closed the curtains and you had the Kiss posters up and you put on the albums and you sat there for hours and you looked at the album cover and you just got lost. Because I certainly did that. Yep. And, I haven't done it I don't own a turntable at this point in my life, but it's on my to-do list to do all over again. But I have started to buy all the vinyl over again. I love the Japanese vinyl. That's a whole nother topic because I think the artwork associated with the Japanese releases was just so much cooler than what we did here in America. But yeah, there's so much to just get lost in with all this stuff, and so much came into play to develop Mr. Speed to where it's at even to this day. Everybody in my band has stories like this. Every single one of them. Even Quentin, he's 23 and he's the newbie.
I think that's awesome though.
He missed
so young.
Yeah, but he's so headlong into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's collecting little things here and there, so he's still buying into the same original vibe that we experienced in the 70s growing up.
It's I think that's even more exciting. I mean, we lived it as it's part of the tapestry of our lives, but for somebody that young who actually has the enthusiasm to research and dive in there, that's like a cornucopia. He can go for years and still not get it all.
Yeah.
You know, just the nuance, and being a musician on top of it, he has a whole another realm to go in there and grab it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I was a huge Kiss fan, and then I started as a 33-year-old person taking the guitar seriously. So that opened up a whole new avenue to the band, to me, learning to play the songs.
Sure.
It was so rewarding. And you can't explain that to someone who, number one, might not be a fan of the band, or number two, doesn't play an instrument, but you get it.
Yeah.
So when you can play the music, there's a different kind of connection to the music outside of just listening to it. And there's nothing wrong with just listening to it. I still do it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But am I right?
Without
when you're
question.
Playing the music,
yes,
there's idiosyncrasies there.
Yes.
You hear, I mean, I will tell you, one of the most eye-opening things for me was a newer song. It's still 20 years old. When I listened to Psycho Circus as a fan of the band, you know, you hear the chorus, you hear the song. And then when I dived in about 3 or 4 years later and learned to play the song, there was so much more guitar-wise in that song than I ever heard.
Sure.
Now I hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the benefit of being a guitar player is you experience the song in a way that a non-player might not hear it. Would you agree?
Totally agree. And I still hear things today. Depends on what kind of system you're listening to the music on and what format. I still hear things that I never heard. And then I'll incorporate that into our arrangement, our version of the song. Because a pair of Sennheiser headphones will sound different than a pair of Bose headphones.
No question.
And you'll hear things differently. And maybe you'll pick up a different track that maybe you've never heard before, or a different bass riff or something like that. And if you can add that and make the song sound fuller, great. I can remember one time when we did God Gave Rock and Roll to You, and Bruce heard us do it at a Kiss convention, and he came up to me afterwards and he says, "Nice job on the guitar harmony parts there." And it was very gratifying to have somebody who was in the band tell me that the diligence I put into learning the parts paid off.
Right.
And if it was for nobody else in that room, all those fans, they didn't hear it, but the guy who recorded it heard it.
Yeah.
I'm good.
It's because it's done correctly.
I'm good.
It's done correctly. And that's and again, look, there's no right or wrong. Rock and roll is rock and roll, but a lot of cover bands, you know, to get through the entire set, are going to miss so much in each song from the original recording. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but when you see things played correctly as a guitar player, and let's face it, you have a very tough job, Rich, because to me, of any tribute band or any band that is paying homage to a certain act, you have the hardest one by far. I mean, the Rolling Stones, you know, no one's going to go up there and look like Mick Jagger. Well, you might get a real skinny guy to go up there and kind of pout and, you know, maybe emulate Mick Jagger, but in the end, all he has to do is sound like him, and the band's got to sound like the Stones.
Sure.
No one's going to pick apart his performance. No one's going to pick apart his garb. There's no makeup to be put on there, right?
No.
So you folks have that presentation thing that has to be right, but it can't supersede the music, you know, so it has to be hand in hand as excellent as the music.
Yeah.
That's hard, man. I will tell you, it's way more work than I think I could ever do, because of just how exacting it has to be. And that's not lost on you, because I see the idiosyncrasies of your performance that are like spot on with Stanley, and that I've always seen that, and that's, you can't teach that. You got to want to learn that.
Well, I think that's what sets me apart from a lot of the Paul guys out there.
Starchild.
Yeah, they are obsessed with pouting.
Yeah,
and they are
so
obsessed with trying to run or something like that. I do the things that you see, but you don't realize how often you see it. From the way I hold my pick, to the way I outstretch my hands. Yeah, that photo up there. See his hands? Look at his hands. He also did that when he did the Phantom of the Opera. You could see it.
Very dramatic.
So a lot of the guys that play Paul, first of all, I'm not sure what they're listening to when they're playing the rhythm guitar parts, because they're so lacking. And I watched their hands and on YouTube I see the video clips and things like that, and I'm just, I mean, you guys are cutting corners, but that's a whole other thing. I'm just grateful that I had Mike there to try and teach me, get me a blueprint for what I needed to know, and then when I attack the songs musically, I'm able to make it work. For some reason, I get this stuff. Now, there's some stuff from the 80s and whatnot that maybe I don't play exactly like him, and there's a lot of Kiss songs that I still don't know to this day. I've never even tried to learn them. For instance, off Hot in the Shade. There's a lot of songs on that record I don't even know how to play. I know how to play Hide Your Heart. You know, we've done that one live, but
there's some throwaways on that record.
Yeah, there are. Cadillac Dreams is one. But anyway, the little things is what I do. The way he smiles, I've kind of figured out how that works. You know, I mentioned the holding the pick, the way the hands are, the just little nuanced things that draw people in. They go, holy shit. I've heard some guys. I heard a guy recently from Canada. I was watching some YouTube stuff, and he was, just didn't get the vocal tone of what he was trying to put across to these people.
Right.
And, you know, physically it just was missing the mark. But that's where it's interesting for me, because 4 to 5 days a week, I'm up at 4:30 in the morning in the gym at 5:15 for a 45-minute workout to try and stay in shape to be him, because that's the level that I want it to be at. I don't give a crap what you think, you know, it should be at. That's where I want it. That's where I'm happy.
Right.
And vocally,
it's obviously working. You know, all these years into it, it's obviously working.
I've seen a lot of guys that get up there, and I'm not sure they got a lot of nuts getting up there dressed like they are, looking the way that they do.
I can't disagree, my friend. I cannot disagree.
Because you either have...
I've seen it as well.
You have complete opposite ends of the spectrum with guys that play Paul. You have the big muscular guys that... You can tell me that you're a Paul Stanley fan, and you can tell me that you're in it for your band.
Right.
But when you're getting up there and you're flexing... It is all about you, man, and your ego.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit who you are.
Right.
And then you got the guys up there that, you know, they don't care about what it is that they're putting into their body. They don't care. They've never done a single push-up.
Right.
And they're up there. I saw a guy recently wearing a black T-shirt, a spandex bodysuit, and he was using an iPad to read the lyrics, and he was playing Paul Stanley. And this is the guy that I want to walk up to and I go, stop, because you're pissing me off, and you're making it hard for him to accept the fact that someone like me, who does it from my heart, really wants to do it, because you get up there thinking that you're allowed to do it this way. You're not allowed to do it this way. Stop.
It's a travesty. As a fan, it's a travesty.
And
it's a clown show.
And someone wants to tell me, well, it's his right. He can do what he wants to do. You know what? No. No, you can't. I tell
Stop
you,
it.
and if you want to find me, my tour schedule is online for the whole world to see. Come and find me at a show, and we'll talk about it.
Right.
But there's a certain thing that this guy does that I take very seriously. It's not unhealthy, because when I take that makeup off and that costume, I'm rich again.
Right.
I got no problem.
Right.
There are a lot of guys out there that don't know how to separate reality from fantasy.
Oh, there's no question.
And there are a lot of guys out there that are in it just because they want the attention. And there's a lot of guys in it for whatever reason it might be. And then there's Mr. Speed that is up there because we're Kiss fans first, and we just happen to have a really, really great band.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you want to fight that, I'm right here.
Right.
Come and fight.
Right.
I'll put my, you know.
Yeah, you guys have proven yourself time and time again. There isn't, not on my radar and not in my sphere, there's no one out there that can touch you folks. And it just time and time again.
And Eric, I'm telling you what, man, if we had some financial backing and we had somebody putting money into my band, and we could go out with a licensed pyrotechnician, and we could do what Kiss does, God bless all these other guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me ask you this about trademarking too. So, you know, that logo, the Kiss logo, is just such a revered, and the band obviously protects it. So, do you guys have latitude to use it in terms of in what capacity? I mean, for marketing purposes, the band supports what you folks do, right? As long as you're not. Where's that gray line that you can't cross over?
Well, the one thing that I do as the band leader for this band is we will never put our images in the Kiss trademarked faces
Right.
on a T-shirt
Right.
and sell it.
Right.
And I've had that conversation with Gene, and Gene told me, don't ever let me find out about it. So that was his way of telling me, you can do it. If you want to make one, I get it, but don't make a whole bunch and start selling them at your shows.
Right.
There isn't a day that goes by where I'm not grateful for the fact that we can do what we're doing, because everything that we're doing, from the music to the makeup to the costuming to the stage show, it's all copywritten and trademarked.
Right.
But I think we do it with the kind of respect that they don't come after us. And there's only so much money that I will agree to make per performance with this band. I will not go over it for my own inner soul, because I don't want them calling me and saying we need to have a meeting. I don't want that. And I know that I've talked to Gene again, the night of the Psycho Circus tour in Pittsburgh. I proposed to my wife at that show.
Okay.
Paul standing right next to me. But before Paul came out, Gene was there, and we were meeting him, took a photo, and I told him who I was, and he hit me on my heart, and he said, as long as it comes from here, you can do it as long as you want to. He says, but I know there's bands out there doing it for the wrong reasons, and when we've had enough of it, we'll put a stop to it.
Right.
That's basically verbatim what Gene Simmons told me. Just a week and a half ago, I saw something on social media where somebody posted about an interview with Gene and his opinion on KISS tribute bands. And he said every one of them should send us a letter to thank us for allowing them to do what they do. And I've wrestled with this over the years. This is a 2 or 3 year old topic, I believe. And I wrestled with it. And I finally, when I read that on social media, I sat down at my laptop and I composed a letter to Gene and Paul. And I sent it off to each one of them, and I thanked them for what it is that they allow us to do without signing a contract, with taking money from buyers, with going out there, using the KISS logo behind us every night, putting it on my website. I always put the registered R next to it when I can, in print and on the web. I am not an idiot to know that they could call me today and say, Mr. Speed needs to stop. We've had enough. And my dream, my rock and roll dream, would be done. I think there's a lot of guys out there that misuse that responsibility, that power, that there's a word that's escaping me right now, but they don't show enough respect to KISS with what they do, and they put a mockery of KISS up on a stage, and
it's out there.
They should stop. And I've been asking KISS and my friend Keith that works for the band, you guys should monitor and police what KISS tributes do. They should have to play a minimum of 20 shows a year. They should have to meet a criteria that is approved by the band. There should be certain things that...
You think that'll happen, though, as they fade away and the legacy continues? You think they will take an active role? Because to me, nothing would be cooler than to have an official KISS tribute band, made official by the band themselves, or maybe 3 of them. Maybe they're regional. Maybe you're the East Coast. There's one in the middle. There's one in the West. Who knows, right?
I think they should do something around the world. They should have an American one. They should have a European one. They should have an Australian one. And the band puts backing into this, and they authorize it.
Okay.
Because there's an authorized Aerosmith band, but there's no authorized KISS tribute band, no matter what these guys try and tell you.
That's interesting. Yeah,
there's not one, and if they're telling you that they are, they're full of shit. There's not one.
Did not know that.
Not one. And
do you think that'll happen, though? I mean, because something's, these guys like to stay so involved with everything, but once it's all done, when that last show is played a year from now, maybe 2 years from now, whenever, and they're sitting at home running, how are they going to take the image, the name, and the power of the brand forward? I think they would turn to you folks to keep it alive, right?
I've heard something about, there's a rumor in the air about something happening in Vegas that they're involved with and controlling, and it's 4 new people doing it, and it's KISS sanctioned, and that's a rumor that I've heard.
In Vegas?
In Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll keep it there, do a residency for it someplace, and do it the right way. I'd like to be involved with that if I could. Honestly, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
I think I would give it one hell of a college try. You know?
Yeah, no question. No question. So that's I had not heard that, and we heard the rumors of them putting 4 new members out there and touring the world and all that. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
I would not. It's hard for me to say, would I go see it or would I not go see it? If I was a part of it, of course I would want people to come see it. I think, at least like the opportunity to be asked to be a part of it. I think for me that would be very gratifying as a fan.
Sure.
As a fan. I am a fan of this band before anything else.
No question.
Okay. Do I agree with everything that they do and have done? Absolutely not.
Yeah, but it'd be for you to sit here and say, "Oh, I agree with everything they've ever done. They can't make a wrong move. The sun rises and sets on what they say." That'd be disingenuous.
Yeah.
You can't look at an entity, a friendship, a marriage, a family, anything for 45 years and say every move was a winner.
Yeah, no.
Who would say that?
No, not me.
And now you hope there's more wins and losses, and I think their longevity proves that that's the case. But you can't, even for me, is disappointed I am with this current tour for what's actually happening there and what's not happening. It doesn't really taint the fact of what that band's meant to me. The fact that this Paul Stanley was a part of my life for real. In terms of my livelihood, for God's sake.
Sure.
And that whole, the friendships with Fran Stuber and Keith LaRue, the people that I've met along the way, that's a very blessed part of my life. I mean, I would, because I'm not happy with the band now, how could that taint what's happened? You can't think like that, right?
No.
I mean, if things went sour tomorrow for you, if they pulled the plug on you tomorrow, which isn't going to happen, but if they did, you wouldn't look back at the whole thing with a negative view. This is an amazing thing you were able to do.
I want to remember Kiss the way that I learned about them. That's what I want to remember. And again, if I don't agree with what's happening now, that's my choice too, as an American citizen.
Sure.
There's people that fight for me to have that right.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to buy into that. I'm going to hold them near and dear for what I remember them and how they helped save my life.
Amen.
Because literally this band saved my life. I've never done drugs. I've socially drank. I've been a pretty clean kid for 55 years.
Right.
I just love a rock and roll band that said something to me, and now I'm able to take my version of that and go out on the road and see parts of this world where I can make other people happy with it. And for me, that means everything to me. It was one thing that I always wanted my mom to come to grips with. So she would think that, when I had long hair, it was cool to have the long hair. Now that my hair is real short and falling out, she finally is like, oh,
that's a
it's
thing.
not such a bad thing. No.
Well, okay, so let's end it on this. First and foremost, what's in store now for Mr. Speed? In the near future. Here.
Yeah, the near future, we want to finish out the 25th anniversary Heart of Chrome tour, which we're currently involved with,
Right.
and we're thrilled about. The shows are going well. I'm not saying they're perfect because rock and roll's not perfect.
It's not meant to be.
And we've got 7 to 8 people that take this thing out on the road. There's 4 band members and 4 crew members, and we give it one hell of a shot everywhere we go.
Okay.
We're there for we realize that the fans make us. The fans make the events that we perform at. Without that combination of everything and the spirit of us as fans in the music, we have nothing. So we're super excited about where we're headed. The future in a few months is going to morph the band into a whole nother era as far as the outfits that we wear, the stage production that we put out on stages, and just a renewed energy to do something fresh.
Okay.
And something we've always wanted to do. I'm not going to stop being a Kiss fan. I still collect Kiss memorabilia. I know my bandmates do the same thing. The culture in my band right now is the best it's been in forever, and we love being around each other. It sounds cheesy and cliche, but it is a fact.
Sure.
Everybody loves being around each other, and when there's a problem, we talk about it. We don't sweep it under the rug and bury it and pretend it doesn't exist. We talk about it because we're mature adults, and we're trying to learn from each other, and we want to be around one another. And Mr. Speed has never been better. And I love the state of the band right now. Okay. I'm always trying to make it better. We're only as good as our last show, and I'm hoping the next show is going to trump that one.
All right. Question 2. Have you ever thought about, either now or in the future, doing a acoustic Kiss show in any capacity, or
Yes.
being involved in something like that.
Yes. I actually have a side project called Exposed
Okay.
that is myself and another guitar player. We play all the songs on acoustic guitars, just 2 guitars. That's the way Mr. Speed started. 2 guitar players playing Kiss music. The theme behind it is something I don't really want to talk about, because it's, if somebody out there hears the show, they may go, hey, I can do that same thing. I'm going to steal that idea.
Sure.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Fair enough.
But it's a very, very cool concept. It's got a stage production to it. It's going to be, anybody who's a Kiss fan is going to walk in and go, wow, that's cool. What I've always wanted to do with a Kiss tribute band is incorporate something from every tour that I ever saw Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the Statue of Liberty, you got Sam the Serpent, you got the Cats, you got the thing that poured water out on the Hot in the Shade tour, you got the Sphinx, you got something, and because you're celebrating this band that you love so much. So don't pigeonhole it into one specific era.
Right.
It's my understanding there's a band up in the Northeast right now that's getting put together that's going to specifically do one era of Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
And great if you can pull it off.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not me.
Pretty limiting, though.
Yeah, that's not me. I don't want to be so scripted every single night, and there's so much of the band that I love.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to just have to do that. So great for those guys. God bless them. I hope it's hugely successful, and maybe someday I'll get to see it. But for me, Mr. Speed has always been about playing what Kiss has never played or rarely ever played, teaching the fans, making the connection with the fans, and above and beyond, enjoying what I do because I've got
fucking fun.
Because I've got an ability to do it.
Right.
So
Amen.
I was put on this planet to be in this band.
Right.
I can't play Van Halen. I can't play Pantera, but I can play Kiss. And I'll put my Paul Stanley rhythm guitar playing up against your Paul Stanley rhythm guitar playing any day of the week.
Right on. And to close it down, if you could take just a couple adjectives and think this through for a second. Let's say 3 adjectives. What are the 3 top adjectives to describe Kiss?
Heart, drive, and passion.
Heart, drive, and passion.
You got to have heart.
It's pretty good.
You got to have drive, and you got to have passion. And if you don't have those 3 things, you can't be in my band.
It's pretty good. I like the word power in there too. Maybe we'll add a 4th one.
Sure.
They're pretty damn powerful.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Rich, this was awesome, my friend.
Eric, I love it.
You got to come back, man. So let's get another season of shows under your belt. Next time we'll come back and talk a couple tour stories, right?
Yeah, man. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. There's some personal stuff I won't divulge, but I'm an open book.
A little bit of that. We don't want it at all, right?
I'm an open book.
Thank you, my friend. And it's just so how they can reach you online.
www.mrspeedonline.com, and we've got all the social media.
Absolutely.
And
you can't find them. You're not looking very hard.
Yeah.
So it's mrspeedonline.com and Facebook, obviously.
Right. Instagram, Twitter.
All of it.
Yeah.
All of it. God bless you, man.
Same
Thank you very much. We'll see y'all.
Peace.